So one of the controversies that's going to come up in this race is the controversy last year about Senate Bill 21, also known as the Billionaire's Bill.
Elon Musk. That's really, I think, what set the whole thing off. Mr. Musk was disappointed at a decision made by our Chancery Court on his compensation, and he began to tweet that Delaware was hostile to business, Delaware was not the place to be, that we were unfair, we were biased, and he was going to move to Texas. And several other shareholders in his position felt similarly. They began an effort to change our corporate law in a way that would shift the law from a balanced approach to one that was more protective of the controlling shareholder, to really move it more to the management side.
What is the difference between being pro-management and being neutral?
Pro-management simply means that anything management wants, you will deliver, even if you think that it's problematic. Being neutral is looking at every decision made by management that's being challenged with a neutral eye, rather than simply instinctively supporting a managerial decision. When management acts in a self-dealing way, you have to call it out.
Can you explain to us what self-dealing means and give us a concrete example?
Well, in the corporate setting, it means basically using the corporate vehicle for your own purposes and not for the purposes of the shareholders of the company. A great example would be, for instance, selling yourself a corporate asset at a discounted price. You'd pay less than it's worth, you would take the profit from it, and the shareholders who own the company would be left out. Let's say taking the corporate airplane out for personal trips and not reimbursing the company, things like that.
What kind of safeguards did Delaware law have against self-dealing?
Well, traditionally, you would have to have, number one, an independent committee of directors review the transaction for fairness, and number two, you would have oftentimes a shareholder vote. And the idea was to protect the shareholders from basically having their interests stripped unfairly by a controlling shareholder.
So how do we go from Elon Musk being upset about a case that he lost to Senate Bill 21?
It wasn't a very long road. It was a very short road. Well, I think that his tweets about us unnerved some people, and I think a group of folks saw this was a time to take advantage of something, of this situation. And these were law firms. There were four people who designed this bill, with the theory that if we don't, the franchise will disappear. At the time, there was no evidence that the franchise was disappearing.
What safeguards did SB 21 remove?
Well, first of all, it said you didn't have to have a vote anymore. You could rely on the committee of independent directors. But it also changed the definition of independence. Independence was typically determined by the courts. What it now says is independent is actually defined in the statute in a way that I believe, and I think a lot of people believe, that doesn't capture independence. And by removing the shareholder vote, that was the ultimate safeguard. That's gone.
So, if I understand this right, Elon Musk is upset. He threatens Delaware. Delaware responds by crafting this bill, Senate Bill 21, that effectively gives him what he wants, and then he leaves Delaware anyway.
That's correct.
And now we're left with a scenario where that needle that needs to remain impartial, fair, and neutral is now moved towards the managerial side of our companies.
Yes, and you also had the problem of this Senate Bill 21. In its operation, it overruled 30-some-odd Supreme Court Chancery precedents. The legislature basically took the role of the court and overruled the court's judgment in a number of very important rulings. So around the country, people said, well, gee, we always thought if they ruled it was final. We could plan around finality. But if someone can go to the legislature and now throw it out, then why go to Delaware? And that's the problem with 21.